Kadosh Boker Or Modim Simcha Masechet Makkot Daf Yomi Daf Amud Aleph 8A1 says the Mishnah Hazorek Even Rishut Rabim. If somebody is going to throw a stone in the Rishut Rabim, Veharag. Now what happens is when he throws, right, he kills, right. So imagine he takes a stone, boom, throws it in the public domain, so he kills someone. So Areze Gole, he's going to go to Galut. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov says, Im mikshiyatzta ha'eve miyado hotziha la et rosho v'kibla hareze patur. What happens if you threw it into the Reshut Rabim, and all of a sudden, after you threw it, somebody pops his head out, right? And then he gets hit by the stone. Meaning when you threw it in the Reshut Rabim, it shouldn't have hit anybody, or there shouldn't. All of a sudden, somebody, boom, just comes out. And now he kills. You're going to be patur from Galut. Okay, the Gemara is going to explain why. Next, Zarak eteven lechatzero. If you're going to throw a stone to your own chatzer, v'arag, and you killed someone. So it all depends. If there's permission for the nizak, the one that got damaged, to go into there, so then you go to Galut. Why? The fact that he had permission to be there, so therefore you're going to be chayav. Right? If he didn't have permission to be there, you don't get Galut. What does that mean? It has to be compared to the yard. Just like a forest, you both could be there. The one that's damaging and the one that got damaged. So to here has to be Reshul Nizak Mazik Likanes Hasham. Yatsa Chatzer Balabait. So this comes to exclude Chatzer Balabait. Shen Reshul Nizak Likanes Hasham. The Nizak meaning like this: if a person's come taking and he plays stones, and all of a sudden the guy just pops up in his backyard. What are you doing in my backyard? You understand? So I'm not. He doesn't go Galut. Why? What do you want? Abba Shaul comes and he says, Ma chatavat etzim reshut. Just like chatavat etzim is going to be reshut, meaning cutting down wood is a reshut, so too everything is going to be a reshut, which means that we're learning another thing to do with the concept of cutting down wood. Yatzav maket bano. So now if you have a father, that he comes and he hits his son. Monfis, boom, yeah, garag, right, and he kills him. Or the rabbi comes and he hits a student. It's the same thing. Just like a father could hit his child, so too the rabbi could hit his student. Yeah, selam shos. Yeah, or the shliach bedin, or a shliach bedin, they don't go to galut. Why? They were doing a mitzvah. So anything which is the meaning, just like when you go to the forest and you're cutting down wood, it's not a shoot. It's if you want, you could do it as a mitzvah. So to hear anything which is not going to be, if everything which is a mitzvah, you're patu from galut. So imagine a father comes and he hits his child, right, and he kills him. Now, he didn't want that. He didn't want to kill the child. But he killed him accidentally. He's patur from galut. The same halacha would apply to a rabbi to a student. Yeah? Or to shliach bedin. The shliach bedin is the one that's giving the Makkot. Right? So also the exact same thing. Okay? Okay, says the Gemara. The Rishut Rabim mezidu. Says the Gemara, I don't understand you. The Mishnah says if you're going to throw a stone to the Rishut Rabim, right? You're going to be chayav galut. He says, I don't understand. If you throw a stone to the Reshut Rabim, that's mezid. Imagine right now somebody's going to come and he's going to throw a grenade, right, in the middle of Harding. You're for sure going to kill someone. That's mezid. It's not that, I did it accidentally. What's going on? So he says, no. Amar Shmuel bar Yitzchak. Shmuel bar Yitzchak says, besotere lo. What happened was is that you're taking down your wall, which is right beside the Reshut Rabim, and one of the stones fell into the Reshut Rabim and it killed someone that was there. Meaning, like right outside over here. Imagine right over here, we're taking down the wall, we're fixing the wall, and you give a bang boom. All of a sudden, it wasn't that I just come and take a stone and just throw it into the Reshut Rabim. I'm going to say, I'm shogeg. No. You were taking the wall down, and all of a sudden, one of the stones went flying, and it killed someone in the Reshut Rabim. So that's where the is going to be beshogeg. You understand? That's what he says. You're going to be chayav. If what?
A pot of flower. You have on the window. You have a pot.
Right? So that's the first answer. Soter, right? Et kutlo. So ask the Gemara, says, one second. Even if you're going to tell me that you're right, that it's not considered forcible, it's not considered mezid. But look, if anybody's coming. You know, whenever you come and you cut down in the woods, what do you say? Timber, and whatever. Everyone has to be careful to look around or whatever. You know you're going to come and you're going to hit. Pay attention. Who's around? right? When they're coming and they're cutting things or doing certain things, you come, you look, nobody's coming, then you do whatever you want. Hence, the Gemara, you took it down during the nighttime. So he says, well, at nighttime you also have to watch out. He says, no, you're doing it towards a garbage bin. Meaning, you wouldn't think that all of a sudden there's a guy in the garbage bin. You're taking down your wall towards the garbage bin. So you didn't think of looking because Kilu, there's not going to be a guy there. So says the Gemara, what's the case of the ashpa? If you're going to tell me there's a lot of people, he's a negligent, right? If not people are not there, so he's anus. Meaning, are you negligent or bichlal? Are you force majeure? The bichlal that you don't even have to think that there's going to be somebody there. So that's the question. So Rav Papa says, Lutzicha, what are we dealing with? It's an ashpa that they use it in the nighttime, but they don't use it during the daytime. Because the mikvah, but some people they come and they use it during the daytime. So poshea lo avi is not considered poshea because it's not used to use during the daytime, but it's not considered honest because once in a while people still come and they use it. It's like a washroom that is designated for nighttime and not for daytime, but once in a while people will come during the day and they would also use it. So it's not that it's negligent because usually people don't use it, but sometimes they do, so it's not honest. So for its accident, remember one more time, poshea is a negligence. A negligence, for sure, you're going to be chayav. You understand? And it could be that it's not even galut. It could be mamash. It's karov mezid. It's almost on purpose. You understand? An honest is like a force majeure. That bichlal, you have no unforeseeable reasons to even think something was happened. So it's not even shogeg. It's even worse than that. But then there's something which is called shogeg, accident. You only go to galut for a shogeg, for an accident. Okay? Fine. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer. Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov comes and he says, we said in the Mishnah, if all of a sudden he threw the stone, and all of a sudden now the guy takes out his head, and then he gets hit by the stone. So he's not going to go to Galut. Tanu Rabbanan, we learned to write Umatzah. Umatzah is prat lemamtzi et atzmo. It comes to exclude, right, that he's finding himself to be there. So from here it says, Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Mikara Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov, Yimshetzav Yimyado, Tzeala Tarasho, Vikibla Patur, he's going to be Patur from Galut. Lemeimra de Matzami, Kara Mashma. Are you going to tell me now the Matzah is from the beginning? Or meaning we have a contradiction. Umatzah, prat lematzui, comes to exclude that if it's already there, right? What does that mean? Here we're talking about right now, right? Somebody comes and he finds somebody to redeem the property. So it says, don't sell a field which is far away in order to redeem a field which is very close by, or a bad field, right? In order to be goel, a good field. Yeah, don't do that. Right? So which means that at the beginning you're selling a ster chuzah, which is karov, right? In order, right? Or that you had it from other fields, right? So you can't sell another one in order to redeem this one. So Amar Rava comes and he says, each pasuk, you have to doresh according to what's written in the pasuk. Right? Amar Rava, hacha minyana dekra, v'hata minyana dekra. Each one is the inyan of the pasuk. What does that mean? Hatam over there to do with Geulat Sadeh, Minyan Dekra Umatzah, is like Dumya de Visiga Yado. It's like Visiga Yado. What does that mean? Ma Isiga Yado, just like a Siga Yado that you were able to get the money to pay off the debt. Mehashtai means from now onwards that you were able to do it. Af Matzah, so to hear the word Matzah is Mehashtai, it's from now onwards, right? And it's coming to exclude, right, with the Kesef or Nechasim that you already had into your properties. Hacha, but over here, Minyan Dekra, it's also to do with the pasuk. Umatzah is dumya de ya'ar. Umatzah is like the ya'ar, just like the ya'ar, just like the forest. Mididita miikara, it's like at the beginning. Af umatzah nami, so too it's going to be mididita miikara, it's like from the beginning, which means that something was there, not that you found them afterwards. Meaning, the word matzah doesn't mean past tense or does it mean to exclude the future. So it all depends on the pasuk. To do with the pasuk of the prat lematzui, which means that you threw the stone, and all of a sudden a guy popped out of nowhere. When you threw the stone, the guy was not there. So the word umatzah is prat lamatzah, meaning that it's not coming to exclude somebody that's mamtzi etzmo, that he pops his head out afterwards. But then you're not going to be chayav. You're going to be patur. Here in our case, when it's written matzah, it all has to do with here. The case was talking about that you are going to redeem a field, aster chuzah. Remember that many times, right? You had only a very certain amount of time in order to come and to redeem the field. If not, then you lost it, right? So sometimes you could sell a field and you have until Yovel, and Yovel it comes back to you. But sometimes, for example, it's chuzah or things like that you sell it, and it depends where it is. If it's going to be in a walled city, so you only have 1 year, or things like that. That always, and then afterwards, that's it. You lost it forever. So therefore, there's going to be certain halachot, and according to that, the matzah is going to be a different terminology. Hazoreket Evan. So we already just said that if you're going to come and you're going to throw a stone, so it's like chativat etzim. Amale Rabbanan Larava, right? Said a rabbi to one of the rabbis to Rava. Mimai de chativat etzim. How do you know chativat etzim is reshut? Dilma chativat etzim de tzukah ma chativat etzim de maracha. Fafilu amar ach yamar rachmana ligle. You came and you placed the anacha. You know what anacha is? An assumption. Yeah, you placed an assumption. Yeah, some people they assume a lot of things. Yeah, they assume a lot of things. So therefore, right, the thing about the question is maybe we're talking about that you're doing a mitzvah. What was a mitzvah? You're cutting down wood. Why would you need wood? A bahaki. Why would you need wood? For a sukkah. You're doing a mitzvah, right? Or, for example, for the maracha, for the mizbeach. So that means you are using, right? You're cutting down the wood, but it's a mitzvah. And therefore you still go to galut. Elmaleh comes and he says, Kevan di matzah chatuv lav mitzvah, hashtanami lav mitzvah. He comes and he gives an incredible answer. If you found wood cut, there's no mitzvah to cut the wood. So the same thing, right? It's not a mitzvah now, even though you are coming to do it. Meaning it's only a hechsher mitzvah. Because if you would have found it, you don't need to do it. Meaning there's no mitzvah to cut wood for the sukkah. If I come and magically I come and I say, here, there's wood cut. Do you have a mitzvah to cut the wood? No. You have it right here. You have it already. Fine, so carry it. But the cutting down the wood is not a mitzvah. Yeah, but it's a hechsher mitzvah. It's not a mitzvah in itself. Meaning when we were talking about, no, that's what we just said. It's a hechsher mitzvah. Hechsher mitzvah is not the actual mitzvah. The mitzvah is to build the sukkah, Rashi says. Right? The mitzvah is to build the sukkah, but not more than that. Right? So therefore, if you found it already prepared, you don't have to cut down the wood. Right? There's no mitzvah to cut down the wood. The mitzvah is to build the sukkah. Right? If malachim came and they brought you the wood, you have a mitzvah to come and now to start cutting wood? No mitzvah to cut the wood. You cut the wood. Now you have to build it. Building the sukkah is a mitzvah, not the cutting of the wood. No, we had the she'ela that you just told me in the Mishnah that you only go to galut for something which is a reshut. Anything which is a mitzvah, you don't go to galut. What are the 3 examples of mitzvah? Right? A father hitting a child, the rabbi hitting the student, right? So if I come and I beat you up and I kill you accidentally, yeah. So what happens? So what happens is and a shliach bedin. Those 3 people, patur. They're patur from galut. Why? They're doing a mitzvah. When the rabbi gives it to you on the head, he's doing a mitzvah. When the father hits child, it's a mitzvah. So therefore, right? So since it's a mitzvah, right? So therefore, that's what happens. Yeah? Sometimes I see the way that people act, and you could tell that the parents didn't give them enough on the head. 8th. So Ravina comes and he asks Rava, yeah? Yeah, Yatsa Ha'av. יצא האב המקד בנו, right? והרב הרודה תלמידו ושליח בית דין. Yeah. So he comes and he says, this comes to exclude from galut the father that hits his son, the rabbi that hits his student, and shliach beit din. So Leima, we're going to say, Kivan delilu gamila mitzvah, hashtana mila mitzvah. 1 second, we have a question then. You know the question is, one more time. What did we just say in the Mishnah? We said in the Mishnah that it's coming to exclude anything which is a reshut. So we asked about chatavat etzim, cutting down wood. What did we say about the cutting down wood? Maybe it's a mitzvah to cut it down because you were doing it, you needed it for the mizbeach, or you needed it for the sukkah. So the Gemara answered, if you found it cut, there's no mitzvah. Correct? Okay. What about right now? I have a child, right? That he's a very good son.
Very good.
A good son. Yeah? Bon fils. How do you say? Bon fils?
No, bon.
Fils. Bon garçon. Bon fils. Yeah. Mamash, a good boy. Or you have a good student. He comes every single day on time. Right? He comes and he takes notes. Yeah? Okay. Yeah. He comes, he takes notes.
That he's
Yeah.
got to stop.
Yeah. So what happens? So all of a sudden, if he was learned, there's no mitzvah for me to hit him. So too now. That means even though he's not learned, there's no mitzvah for me to hit him. What did you say about the sukkah? You said if I found the wood already cut, there's no mitzvah to cut the wood now. Why? Because if I found the wood already cut, there's no mitzvah. So he says, one second, the same thing. If the boy would have been a good son, or if the student would have been a good student, right? Or the Sheikh Betin didn't have to do anything because he was a good guy, right? So they didn't have to give him Makkot. So that's it. So that's a mitzvah. Listen to what the Gemara says. Afal gav de gamir mitzvah. Do you know that sometimes even if you have a good boy or you have a good student, it's still a mitzvah? Still give it to him. Still give it to him. He says, why? Tichtiv yaser bincha v'yanichecha v'yiten madanim lenafshecha. What does that mean? Etzem da'aka is a mitzvah. Why? Because you should always do it. Keep them on. Yeah? So Hadarama Rava. So he says, then Rava said, love me really bad. What I just said was not. Why? It's not. No mama shoot. Why? To do with the yard, if you want, you could go. If you don't want, you don't need to go. Now, if you're going to tell me that it's a mitzvah, you have to go. So Amar le Ravada Barava le Rava says Ravada Barava to Rava. He comes and he says, Kol hecha dichtiv asher dibayehu. Are you going to tell me that the word va asher, right? It means if you want, right? So the truth is, one of the explanations of asher is if, really, right? But he says, does it mean if you want? A person that becomes tameh and he doesn't become tahor and he goes into the Bet HaMikdash. So you're going to tell me now that if, what does that mean? A person gets karet if he goes into the Bet HaMikdash if he's tameh. He says, what do you mean? If you want to become tameh, so now what happens right now if he went in and he did it for a met mitzvah? We know that a met mitzvah is a person that dies and there's nobody to bury him. So you have a mitzvah to go and to bury him. So now you're going to tell me that he's patuna? That means imagine he just did a met mitzvah, he did a burial, and then he comes to the Bet HaMikdash. Are you going to tell me that he's patur? Why? Because he wanted to do a mitzvah? You don't say that. So what's going on then? So how could it be that asher is only for Dvar Rashut? Or it's only for if you want to do it, meaning if you no. So he says Shane Hatam, it's different over there to do with coming into the Bet HaMikdash when you're Tameh. The Pasuk says, Tameh yeh mikol makom. Chetam ubet, yeah, 8b. Yeah, so he says, what do you mean Tameh yeh? Tameh yeh means that a person will always be Tameh. That means even though he went and he did it for a mitzvah, he's still going to be Tameh. And if he goes into the Bet HaMikdash, he's chayav paret. Right? That means even though the guy was doing a mitzvah, it was a met mitzvah, there was no bigger mitzvah. Right? We do a whole bunch of there's a whole bunch of things that we do for met mitzvah. Met mitzvah is mamash up there. But at the end of the day, Tameh yeh mikol makom, he's still Tameh. And therefore, if he goes into the Bet HaMikdash, he's still going to be chayav karet. So says the Gemara, but one second, Tameh yeh, I thought we learned it for something else. Tameh yeh l'rabot tvul yom. This comes to include even a tvul yom. Tumatobo is coming to Rabbi Mechusar Kippurim. Meaning, everyone knows the difference between a Tvul Yom and Mechusar Kippurim and Tameh? A person that's Tameh is Tameh. That's Pashut, correct? A person that's Tameh is Tameh. What's a Tvul Yom? Very good. So Tvul Yom means he already went to the mikveh, right? Tvul Yom, he did Tfilah during the day, but the Tahara process only takes into effect in the nighttime, right? Misherev Shemesh, right? Once it's nighttime, then he becomes Tahor. Mechusar Kippurim means that he did the Tvul Yom, there's Erev Shemesh, but he's lacking kapara. Lacking kapara means he has to bring a korban. Mechusar Kippurim means that he's lacking a korban, and therefore without bringing the korban, he's still not tahor. So therefore, in any of these things, if he still goes into the Bet HaMikdash, he's still going to be tameh. And that we learn from tameh yeh to matobo. So tameh yeh is coming to include a Tvul Yom. That means even though he went to the mikveh, and right after going to the mikveh, he goes into the Bet HaMikdash, he still gets karet because he didn't finish his purification process, right? Then the tumatobo is going to come into issue mechusar kippurim. So therefore, how could you tell me that tameh comes to include to you a met mitzvah that goes to the Bet HaMikdash? Tameh is only including somebody that's a tvul yom going to the Bet HaMikdash. So answers the Gemara. Elmaleh comes and he answers, Ana me'od kamina. Right? I'm going to tell you, we're talking about right? Me'od tumatobo, from the od that he's still tameh. That's what's coming to teach you the met mitzvah. Meaning, I'm not learning it from tameh yeh. I'm learning it from the word od tumatobo, right? And that means right, almost right. So that's what it od. Fine. Okay. Ika dematin la'aha. You know that some people they came and they learned it on a different brayta. What are they learning in? Becharishu v'katzit tishbot. Yeah. What does that mean? Right. It says Rabbi Akiva Omer. Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, right, that this pasuk is talking about that you're not allowed to work the land during Shemitah. Yeah, you're not allowed to work the land during Shemitah. Okay? So he says, some people have to go. Yeah? So it says over here like this. So Ika dematni la'aha, becharishu v'katzit tishbot. Rabbi Akiva comes and he says, Eno tzarich lomar charish shel shvi v'katzit shel shvit. I don't have to say that you're not allowed to plow or reap during the Shemitah year, during Shvit. Sharek v'ne'aman, it says already in the pasuk. It says already over there. Sadecha lo tizah v'chalacha lo tizmor. Right? So therefore you're not allowed to work it. אלא אפילו חריש של ערב שביעית שנכנס לשביעית, וקציר של ערב שביעית שיצא למוצא שביעית. We're talking about the charisha, which is the plowing process of the 6th year going into the 7th year, okay? Or the katsir, the reaping of the 7th year going into the motzeh shvit, right? And then basically you're reaping it in the 8th year. But it still has kedushat shvit. It says over here, if right now it grew to a shlish during the Shemitah year and it wasn't reaped until the 8th year, the pasuk is telling you that right, it still has shvit, meaning it still has the kedusha of shvit, so you're not allowed to come and cut it down. You're not allowed to do nothing. You're not allowed to sell it and everything. Everyone understood? Meaning you have something that grew on Shemitah and it already grew a third. Even motzeh Shemitah, I cannot sell that because that's produce of Shemitah. So it means even though of the 8th year, meaning meaning when it's which one?
It's not coming from the 6th year.
No. It grew on the 7th year. Right? It grew on the 7th year. If it grew on the 7th year, as long as it grew a third, 1/3, I cannot sell it during the 8th year. On the 8th year. Okay? So he comes and he says, Rabbi Yishmael comes and he says, I've got another learning from this. Ma charish reshut, av katzir reshut. Yatsa katzir haomer shu mitzvah. We just did Sefirat HaOmer. Right? Sefirat HaOmer was the second day of Yom Tov, the second day of Pesach. That's where we start the Korban HaOmer. Korban HaOmer is what we do from the Korban HaOmer, which is the 16th of Nisan, which that permits all the Chadash. Remember, after Pesach, right? Once we finish Pesach, I don't have to worry about Chadash until usually August. Why? Because everything, the second day of Pesach, the Korban HaOmer, permits everything of Yashan and Chadash. So I don't have to drive you crazy for another 2-3 months. And I could b'sheket. Why? I could eat any bread, any croissant. Okay, you have the concept of chametz shaval of Pesach. I have to make sure that the chametz was sold and everything. That's something else. But let's say, for example, it belonged to a goy, right? And the goy comes and I don't have to worry about it. Or you come and you make. No, nothing to do with it. All you do is chalav Yisrael and not chalav Yisrael. This guy is mixing everything up. That's like the last time he comes, he takes a OUD, he comes and he says, is it chalach bet Yosef? Where are you going? OUD is chalav Yisrael, nothing to do with Yashan and Chadash. Ma ze kashur? What is the connection between OUD and Chadash and Yashan? Fine. Yeah. So Rav Moshe Feinstein says that you should come to a minyan on Mincha afternoon, Shabbat, and then Arvit you should do Rabbeinu Tam 50 minutes. Yes, he says that. That's Shita. Okay, I'll show it to you. Yeah. So he comes and he says, right? So he says, so too Katsir, it is going to be Rashut. Yatsa Katsir Omer. This comes through the Korban, the reaping of for the Korban Omer, which is going to be a mitzvah. So Elmaleh says the Rabbi to the Rava, Mimai de Charishat the Rashut. How do you know that this is going to be a Rashut? Maybe it's Charishat Omer the mitzvah, maybe it's a mitzvah. And still the Torah comes and tells you Tishbot. You're not allowed to do it even for a mitzvah. So Elmaleh says, so the fact that you found it plowed, you're not going to plow it, it's not a mitzvah. So Eitvei Ravina Rava, we're going to ask the same question now. So basically the same concept, we're bringing it down to do with the Charisha and Ketzira, the same thing. So he's going to ask, why? If they were learned, there's no mitzvah. And so the Gemara, the same that we mentioned before, Hatam also, it's going to be a mitzvah because even if they're learned, there's still a mitzvah to continue giving them on the head. Look, if you don't give them on the head, look, they're again back on the phone again. He speaks about Moshe Feinstein. Yeah.
It's so.
So Hadar Rava, then Rava retracted and he says, Lav minta hidamri. Right? He says, this is not what we said now. He says, why? Ketzira dumya de charisha. The ketzira is like the charisha. Ma charisha matza charush eno choresh. Just like charisha, if you found it that it's going to be plowed, you're not going to plow it. Of ketzira nami, so to ketzira also eno kotzer, you're not going to you're not going to reap it. He said, then if you're going to tell me that it's going to be a mitzvah, matza katzur eno kotzer, mitzvah liktzor, no, there's still going to be a mitzvah to bring from Tvuah Chadasha from Minchat HaOmer. That means even if you do find it, there's still a mitzvah by the Korban HaOmer to reap it and then to bring it. So because there's still going to be a mitzvah, so therefore you have it. Okay? Fine. Okay. Mishnah. Mishnah Chet Amud Bet.
If I found it cut,
Hav golei al yedei ben v'aben golei al yedei av. The father will go to Galut through the son, and the son will go to the Galut through the father. Hakol golin al yedei Yisrael. Everybody will go to Galut if they kill the Yisrael. Yisrael golin al yedei, and Yisrael will also go to Galut for them. We have to find out, except for a ger toshav. The ger toshav eno golei al yedei ger toshav. So ger toshav will only go to Galut for a ger toshav. We have to understand what is a ger toshav. We're going to see now. Says the Gemara, Hav golei al yedei ben. The father will go to Galut because of the son. I thought you told me that if this father comes and he hits his son, then he goes to Galut. So answers the Gemara, the Gamir. The son is learned. So that's why he goes to Galut. Says the Gemara, what are you talking about? I thought you told me I thought you still mitzvah to him, even though he's learned. So answers the Gemara, Beshuya dinagre. No, the Ben, right, was learning from a Nagar. And the father hit him, right? And it wasn't for Torah. He was teaching him a profession. And the father hit him. So says the Gemara, Shulia denagre, he's teaching him a profession. There's a mitzvah for the father to teach him a profession for parnasah. So why in the world? That's a mitzvah also, right? So it's a mitzvah, exactly, to swim and everything. So answers the Gemara, the Gemara, he had a different profession already. Meaning the fact that the son already had another parnasah, he had another profession, so therefore it's not a mitzvah to teach him this one. So therefore that's why the father will go to Galut through the son. Next, yeah. So he says, right? V'aben goleh al yedei av, right? That the son is going to go to Galut through the father. Well, meaning we have a contradiction. Makeh nefesh prat lemakeh aviv, when it says that the one that goes to Galut that comes through the father, right? He doesn't go to Galut. So then, what's going on then? Yeah. So Amar Rav Kana comes and says like it's not a question. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbanan. The Braita that says you're going to be patur from Galut, that's Rabbi Shimon. And the Braita that says you're going to be chayav Galut is going to be Rabbanan. Why? Because according to Rabbi Shimon, he says chenek is worse than saif. You remember we had a machloket, Rabbi Shimon and Rabbanan. What is the worst of the punishments? You remember there was a machloket. Do we say sekila sirefa or sirefa and sekila? And then chenek and hereg or hereg and chenek. So according to Rabbi Shimon, chenek is more chamur than saif, than hereg. Okay, so therefore, shigigat saif nitna lechapara. Only if you're going to be killed through a saif, so then the accident of that will be given to a kapara through galut. But shigigat chenek lo nitna kapara. Doesn't go to kapara. The Rabbanan Damni, but according to the rabbis, that they say saif chamur mechenek, that saif is worse than chenek. Horeg avi b'shogeg shigigat saifu. That's considered shigigat saif. Shigigat saif nitna lechapara. It does go to galut, which means like this. Right now, when a person comes, and there's going to be worse than if he comes and he kills the father b'shogeg. So therefore, according to that, he does go right to the galut, right? So therefore, just like if anybody comes and he kills, he goes to galut. So to here, he's going to go to galut. Rava Amar, but Rava comes and he says, no. Prat leoseh chabura be'aviv b'shogeg. We're talking about that he made a chabura with his father and he did it accidentally. I would have thought to say, since he did it b'mezid, he would have been killed. He also goes to Galut. Kamashmalan comes teach you that he doesn't go to Galut unless he's makeh nefesh and not chabila. Meaning if a person accidentally made a chabila, right? So therefore they don't do that, right? I was actually so says the Gemara, right? As follows now, two dots. Everyone goes to Galut. Now what is it coming to include? Which means an Evan and a Kuti, they also go to Galut if they kill the Yisrael. So Tanina the Tanu Rabbanam, we learned this in a Braita. Every Vekuti go level locality Israel. Every Vekuti they're going to go to Galut and they're going to get lashes of Israel. Israel go level locality Vekuti and Israel will also go to Galut to never Vekuti. Bishama every Vekuti go level Israel. I understand Veloke, right? Gole the Katle. What does it mean Gole? He killed by accident. Veloke Telati, he cursed him. If he curses a Israel, you give him lashes. Ela, but rather Yisrael go level locality Vekuti. What's the case? Bishama Goleh, I understand Galut also. You killed him. If you killed a non-Jew or you killed right an Eved, you go to Galut. But look, why? Delatia, because you went and you cursed him. It's in the pasuk. You only have an issue to curse somebody that's doing Maseh Mecha, but if not, no. So Elam Ravacha Bar Yaakov says Ravacha Bar Yaakov Kigon Sheidbo ve'uzam. He testified about him, and then he became an edzomem, and then he gets lashes. The Chavate, the Gabe Eved, the same thing by Eved. Sheidbo ve'uzam. Eved, he can't testify. What's going on exactly? Of Eved is not kashalayit. So what's the case now that the Eved is going to come and testify, and then Kilu is the same malacha? You don't have that. Ela marvacha bered Ravi kach maskir when we're dealing with the kongon sheikau akah shem b'shaveh pruta. You hit him akah which is not shaveh pruta. The Amar Teta Mudale from the top. The Amar Rabbi Yami Amar Rabbi Yochanan hikau shem b'shaveh pruta. Loke, you get lashes. That means if you hit a guy but there's not shaveh pruta, so you still get lashes. V'lo makshina nakah leklala. But we do not make a hekesh from haka'ah to klala. Okay?